Hey, good morning and welcome to the Bible Daily Dig. I'm your host, Daniel. This is the show where we read together, pray together, get a practical to take into our day together, all in under 10 minutes or so. Let's dive into Deuteronomy chapter 28. Almighty God, open up Deuteronomy chapter 28 for us today. Give us that understandable practical we can share with others. Say, I read Deuteronomy chapter 28 today, and this is what I got from it. And I pray that you open up understanding. Thank you so much for this first season, this experiment. It's been so awesome for me, and I pray that it can bless others. I love you and trust you. We love you in Jesus. Amen. All right, let's dive on in to Deuteronomy chapter 28. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands, I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above the nations on earth. All the blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. You'll be blessed in the city, blessed in the country. Fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds and the lambs of your flocks. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. You will be blessed when you come in, and blessed when you go out. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in 7. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he's giving you. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to them. Then all the people on the earth will see that you're called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock and the crops of your ground, in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouses of his bounty, to send rain on your lands in season and to bless all the work of your hands. You'll lend to many nations, but you'll borrow from none. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God that I give you this day, and you carefully follow them, then you'll always be at the top, never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any of the commands that I give you today, to the right or to the left, following other gods and serving them. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and you do not carefully follow his commands and decrees I'm giving you today, all the curses will come on you and overtake you. You'll be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land and the calves of your herds and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in and cursed when you go out. The Lord will send on your curses and confusion and rebuke you in everything that you put your hands to until you're destroyed and come to a sudden ruin because of the evil that you've done forsaking him. The Lord will plague you with diseases until he's destroyed you from the land that you're entering to possess. The Lord will strike you with wasting diseases, with fever, inflammation, with scorching heat and drought and blight and mildew, which will plague you until you perish. The sky over your head will be bronze, the ground beneath you iron. The Lord will turn the rain of your country into dust and powder. It will come down from the skies until you are destroyed. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will come out at them from one direction, but you will flee from them in 7. And you'll become a thing of horror to all the kingdoms on the earth. Your carcasses will be food for all the birds and the wild animals, and there will be no one to frighten them away. The Lord will afflict you with boils of Egypt and with tumors, festering sores, and the itch from which you cannot be cured. The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. At midday, you'll grope about like a blind person in the dark. You'll be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day, you'll be oppressed and robbed with no one to rescue you. You'll be plagued to be married to a woman. You'll be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. You will build a house, but you will not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but you'll not even begin to enjoy its fruit. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you, and you will not be returned. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will rescue them. Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you'll wear out your eyes watching for them, day after day, powerless to lift a hand. A people that you do not know will eat what your land and labor produce, and you will have nothing but cruel oppression all your days. The sights you see will drive you mad. The Lord will afflict your knees and legs with painful boils that cannot be cured, spreading from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. The Lord will drive you and the king you set over you to a nation unknown to your ancestors. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood, gods of stone. You'll become a thing of horror, a byword and an object of ridicule among all the peoples where the Lord will drive you. You will sow much seed in the field, but you'll harvest little, because locusts will devour it. You'll plant vineyards and cultivate them, but you'll not drink the wine or gather the grapes, because worms will eat them. You'll have olive trees throughout your country, but you will not use the oil, because olives will drop off. You'll have sons and daughters, but you'll not keep them, because they'll go into captivity. Swarms of locusts will take over your crops of your land. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you, higher and higher, but you'll sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you'll not lend to them. They will be the head, you will be the tail. All the curses will come on you, and they'll pursue you and overtake you until you're destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and observe the commands and decrees I gave you. Then will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies of the Lord sends against you. Will serve the enemies of the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he's destroyed you. The Lord will bring nation against you from far away in the ends of the earth, like eagles swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand, a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. They'll devour your young of your livestock and crops of your land until you're destroyed. They'll leave you with no grain, no new wine or olive oil, nor any calves of your herds or lambs of your flocks until you're ruined. They'll lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until high fortified walls in which you trust will fall down. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and daughters the Lord your God is giving you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion for his own brother or the wife he loves or his surviving children. And he'll not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he's eating. It will be all that he has left, because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities. The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own son or daughter, the afterbirth from her womb, and the children she bears. For her dire need, she intends to eat them secretly, because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities. If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law which are written in this book, and do not revere this glorious and awesome name of the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants. Harsh, prolonged disasters and severe, lingering illnesses. He will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded and will cling to you. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in this book of law until you're destroyed. You, who are as numerous as the stars in the sky, will be left but for a few in number, because you did not obey the Lord your God. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to ruin you and to destroy you. You'll be uprooted from the land you're entering to possess. You will be uprooted from the land you're entering to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end of the earth to other. There you'll worship other gods, gods of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. Among those nations you'll find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. Then the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. You'll live in constant suspense, filled with dread, both day and night, never sure of your life. In the morning you'll say, if only it were evening. In the evening, if only it were morning. Because of the terror that will fill your hearts and the sights that your eyes will see. The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. There you'll offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one would buy you. Wow, that took a dramatic turn. Deuteronomy chapter 28, man. I mean, it started out really nice. God's like, I'm going to lift you up, and he desires to. So like a third of this passage was just saying how great it's going to be if we obey and put into practice God's laws. The second 2/3 were just like creative ways to destroy us and alluding to other ones that are even more creative that aren't even written down. It's interesting. I remember, the discussion yesterday, if you weren't here, we talked a little bit about how serious God is about misrepresenting the familial roles. And it seems like maybe this blessings and curse that came off is a result, because I kind of saw the same kind of pattern. Like 2/3 of that was about laws regarding family groups, and a third of that was kind of regarding your extended influence to foreigners, etc. And I see here like a third of it is about the blessings and 2/3 is about the curse. And when I was reading this, I was like afraid that I was like getting that kind of feeling of vengeance like on my enemies. Like, I hope I'm not reading this as though like it's gonna happen to someone else, because this is terrifying. I don't even want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, hoping that this would happen to even my enemies. And God is like, hey, I'm a good God, but I encapsulate all spirits, and I will lean into just a spirit of destruction if you don't follow these commands. Like, whoa, that's why we're doing this. I mean, that's why we got to read the Bible every day. That's why we got to find a way to put these things into practice so that we can refine our characters, refine who we are. So that one, the small part is that we properly represent God. So we're not misrepresenting him to the world and giving him a bad name, which I think Christians, true Christians don't do that, or generally don't do that. I mean, but there's a brand of Christianity that is completely false, and it's probably most Christians. According to the Bible, few is the path and narrow, few find it. So most Christians aren't really Christians, right? According to the Bible. And so our goal is to make sure that we are the real deal. And we have to have that urgency, because if we're taking a cheap Christianity that allows us not to follow the commands, it's really prevalent. And I think it's very clever by Satan, we're motivated by guilt. Hey, I feel like I never be good enough, so I might as well just throw in the towel. This nihilistic kind of like feeling that can really creep in. But instead of surrendering to hopelessness, we should surrender to God's hope, where he says, look, I've got a beautiful thing for you. And if that's not good enough, look, it's going to get really bad if you don't obey. It's kind of fun. Like I kind of hear an echo of the way I work, like when I'm really trying to get my son to make a decision, because I want it to be his decision, right? To do something that I really need him to do. And we're pressed for time. I hate being pressed for time, so I try to get these mechanics in place to kind of decide ahead of time how I'm going to handle them. And what I normally do is I lay before him two options. I'm like, hey, all right, great. You can do this. You can either continue doing what you're doing that I don't like, or, you can, do what have you. See, I'm like, now I'm nervous because it talks about the itch here. I'm like, I hope I don't have the itch. That urgency of really hoping of avoiding problems, that's a great motivator. Really good motivator. I'm convicted. And that's the way I deal with my son. I'm like, hey, you can have this awesome thing. You can play with this cool thing I know you like. We can do this, or we can do it the hard way. You can continue doing what you want, and that's yours to decide. But you're going to get discipline, and it's sober. It's not like I'm not offended that my son, wants to be natural. That he wants to incline himself to his limbic system and continue in pleasurable things beyond appropriate times in terms of not self-regulating video games, junk food, and these types of things. What am I saying? Oh yeah, I think I'm going a little bit long today. I apologize for the rant, but man, let's really see the way that God was like, hey, you guys stand on the mountain of a curse. You guys stand on the mountain of blessings. And this was set up yesterday. And then proclaim what's going on. And it's interesting that they represent the chosen. He's like, no, you Israelites. It's not like put the foreigners and the naughties on one mountain and put the really holy people on the other. He's like, no, split it down the middle, 6 on one, 6 on the other, and declare these things. And that is the way we are to see our relationship with God, that it could go either way. Like, it is by grace that we are even allowed to talk about him and to think about him and to desire to please him, because that can be taken away from us at any time. So let's stoke that feeling of serving God and realize that it's a fragile relationship that we have with him. It could go either way. And so we want to encourage that. And Jesus, have a great day.